Update on the Honda. It's doing great. We got some Descente tires on this thing. She's rocking 20 plus miles to the gallon. Now that we're back at the shop, I realized we don't have any blinkers, we don't have any taillights, we don't have any stoplights anymore. And I'm pretty sure it's because when we welded, we might have burnt the wiring harness that runs underneath the truck. So I have this rag here because there's nobody here to help me. I was energizing the circuit in the fuse box trying to get these to illuminate. And I was using the rag kind of as like a reflector so I could see it light up from the front. Even with energizing the circuit, I have no power. So I'm going to try and use our power probe, see if that's going to help me out. We have a power probe that has a circuit tracker in it, and you'll hold a little beeper up to the truck where the harness is until you find the brake. So hopefully this helps me out. But today what I want to get done is I want to mount the fuse box. I want to wrap up all these wires, put the attitude adjuster up on the roll cage, mount that, and then just take care of all this stuff in here so it's a little bit more comfortable to drive. Then we're going to work on gauges and stuff like that. So this circuit right here where I put the fuse back in, this is your stop lamp circuit. Come on, man. Can't be any more annoying. Turn that fan off. So anyways, as I was saying, this is your stop lamp circuit, and if you see here, there's two posts inside of this. It's just like any fuse leg situation. I'm going to test one of these two until I find which one is constant power. So I'm gonna check. Oh, see, there you go. So this one, nothing. This leg will have constant power. So that's how a fuse works. It bridges the gap between these two with a little amount of solder or a little wire. And when the circuit is overpowered or you have a short, it blows the little wire or the piece of solder inside the fuse and it shuts down the circuit so it doesn't continue to cause a short situation or catch a vehicle on fire. This leg right here has power. That's what that's identifying. So this one doesn't. So what I can do with a power probe is I can provide it with power. So if you check this out, we'll look back at my little handy dandy towel. It's hard for you guys to see, but I can see it. It is not lighting up no matter how bad I want it to. So this is our fancy power probe kit. This can find a short in a wire, it'll find the break in the wire, it'll find whatever you want. So everything that I'm gonna need is, I'm gonna need the transmitter, I'm gonna need, I can't remember which one, I'm pretty sure it's the green one of these so I can poke the wires. And then this right here, this is the beeper, this will give you a tone. So essentially you put this on the end of this green wire, you run these two to the battery so this has power, and then this is gonna send a signal down the wire and you track it with this. So this will beep the entire length of the wire until you have a problem. So this can help you save time, be more efficient, find something that's inside of a harness that you really don't want to have to take apart to find a simple little nick in the wire. So I just learned something. This is actually pretty cool. So instead of trying to find inside of this harness right here, the actual wire that goes to the brake lights themselves, what I'm gonna do is, fortunately, I found this. This is like perfect. So I can clip onto the post leg, super simple, and then I plug this guy right into the little green and we're good to go. That's actually genius. That saves me a bunch of time. So now that I have this all hooked up, everything's all working, we got our red light on, we can take this cool tool and we will power this on, which I cannot remember how to do because I don't like to read instructions, so we will be trying to figure this out for the next 10 seconds. So I got that powered on. Now what you can do here is you can adjust the sensitivity level on it. So if you check this out, see, that's the tone you're looking for. It's pretty quiet to you guys, but that is actually extremely annoying to me. So we'll go into here. So we have a tone going out. Let's just skip this whole process and see if we can find it at the back of the truck. Ooh, not good. Not good. That is not what you want. We have nothing. Now, because I know where the damage might be done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my creeper because I am in nice clothes today. So that's where we might run into some trouble. Really hope not. So what I'm going to do, this is where our connection is. This is where our connection should be. I don't know why we don't have anything beeping here. That's not good. Okay, so I took a break from filming real quick just so I could do this myself. I'd have to try and do two things at once. So I realized I have power coming out. Obviously, I powered up that circuit. I have my signal at the brake switch all the way down to this connection that goes out. So realistically what I'm finding here is the fuse box is energized, the power comes in and then to the brake switch, and then when you apply the brakes, it would bridge the gap in the switch and then shoot power down the whole system. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to disconnect the brake switch because there's power in the truck and it's not being sent to the actual brake lights itself. I didn't realize that that was something that I needed to pay attention to. On a Dodge, that's your brake switch right there. The brake switch actually, when the brake is touching the sensor, it shuts the circuit off. But when you push the brake pedal down, the switch itself opens up, which gives you power to the brake lights. So it's just weird me, never thought of that. So I'm gonna disconnect this, and in theory, the brake lights should be on. Okay, so no brake lights. Have I ever told you guys how much I hate my life? So right now I'm checking the fuse for the, not stop lights, your running lights. So if you look here, I have ground on one side, and I have positive on the other. So, if I energize this circuit, as you can see from this little reflection down here, my running lights are working. And I was like, you know what, watch this. And I looked in the bed of the truck. Tail light is getting power through that circuit. I'm super curious if I replace this fuse, if this might help. I don't know. So I'm gonna replace this fuse and go from there. Okay, so now I've got marker lights again. That was another thing that I needed to accomplish. Back to the brake lights. Took a little bit of a break from that just because it's confusing me. I think I'm overcomplicating this. I tend to do that sometimes just because I think the worst out of every situation, because that's just how I am. But I don't see any change in that bulb brightness when I activate this switch. So now with the key on, what I do notice is when I try to turn the hazards on, they light up. So that right there is telling me that the brake light circuit is actually working. After some lunch and some digging, I came to find out that the hazard switch was kind of like broken and stuck. So it wasn't allowing me to use the brake switch. But if you look now, I've got it. We're good to go. So I decided to move back to the blinkers and figure out why they weren't working. So took apart the column and I was like, you know what? These things have a flasher relay on them, and I know I've heard of them having problems before. So I pulled it out and I'm like, oh, it's got a little bit of corrosion, like not too bad. The terminals are all visible. They're clean enough. They should work. And then I'm like, oh, let's pull the cap off. And then I find this. Dude, that is the nastiest relay I've ever seen. So O'Reilly's is on the way with a new one. We'll figure out how that goes. O'Reilly's saves the day. Look at what we got again. Street legal, baby. Those aren't streetable though. Starting to look like a little bit of a race truck in here. We're gonna have our headlight switch mounted up there, tachometer there, and the attitude adjuster outside to the right. Unfortunately, you cannot reach any of these things with your 5-point on. But in the future, we are going to be building a center console that'll mount right here. The other thing I got mounted up for now was the fuse box. Got that up, tucked out of the way. Now I need to bundle all of this rainbow stuff out of the way and under the dash. Much more better. Got everything grounded. Obviously, this isn't going to be the most pretty thing in the world. It's just to make the truck run. The blinkers work, the starter work, and the fuel pumps. That's literally all that needs to happen inside of this thing. Got my hood latch mounted to where you simply just pop it open. It's kind of in a factory location. That's nice. E-brake still works. It sucks. It's not the best, but hey, this is a race truck. I've wanted to do this for years, and this is how we're going to do it. Got the paddle tires on. These are 35.5 Sandmasters. They're extremely cheap. They're about $1,100 bills a piece, which isn't bad. And then we're running the Battleborn wheels bead locks. I really like these wheels. It's a local company to us, and figured we'd give them a try, and so far I like these more than the American Force bead locks that we did, like a lot more, because you can actually bolt them on without doing 6 hours of machine work. I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe we'll dove the bedside down that way on each side, something, but that doesn't account for that. So yeah, we'll
it ain't going to work.
You don't think so?
It should. So we got our paddles on, which was quite the debacle here, because originally we ordered scats, and right now there's a rubber shortage apparently. So we were cutting it close on time. These tires here are Sand Tires Unlimited. They're awesome paddles. Definitely not for this application, but they are the Sandmasters, they're 35.5s with a number 2 cut, which is, I think, their most aggressive one. Talked to the guys there, they said it should do pretty good, but the guys at Scat, you know, were kind of telling me, not so great, so we'll see. They kind of explained this will be like having a drag radial, and having the big Scats would be like an actual slick. How about that? So they should do the job, but we don't know. So I think we're going to go do some test hits before we go out on the big weekend. So stay tuned, and next time you see this, we'll be at Sand Mountain.
Test hits on the street?
No. These tires were double the price of the other ones, and I had to get new wheels to beadlocks. Shout out Battleborn Wheel here in Reno, or in Carson, but they got some cool looking 17 by 9 inch beadlocks for this thing. So now I don't think the front's gonna fly.
What, the bumper?
The tires.
Oh.
It looks like it's just gonna plow. We need to float. So I think we got such a weight issue that a lot of people that are sand people have been telling us that we need to get some weight over the rear ends. So since we've gutted so much weight, I ain't too worried about adding weight. So we were thinking about Bryce has a 40-inch tire at his house, the wheel, putting it in here, strapping it down really well to this cross member here, and then filling it with water or sand or something, and just kind of tune it in to where, see if it hooks, because a lot of people are telling us that they think it's just going to be spinning on top of the sand and not actually biting in and hooking and getting the power down.
I think it's like a boat. Once you get on plane, you're fine.
Maybe.
It's like watching people take off with a quad, how the front end digs down.
Yep, you're right.
I think it's just once you get to that point, it's either go or slow down and restart.
Yeah, and we know this doesn't have crazy suspension, and we're not trying to build some crazy trophy truck with this. This truck's future is drag racing and going fast, but if we throw paddles on it like this and go have fun and stay off the choppy, you know, the whoops and whatever, because at Sand Mountain there's still a bunch of lines that are really smooth up to the top. But it's a lot different there because, you know, a drag strip pit is, you know, I don't know, 9 to 12 seconds or whatnot. Sand Mountain's going to be like 30-second pull or longer. So we're really worried about coolant temp and getting it way too hot. So what's nice is I have the attitude adjuster that Bryce mounted up temporarily right here on the dash bar till we build our console. But I can actually, I think there's 18 positions on that to where it basically moves the fuel plate back and forward, but we can turn it down and just know, okay, on this setting, whatever 6 clicks, it's not going to get hotter than 1400 whatnot. So if I'm not paying attention and it's just chaotic, if we set that and we know what it's at, we know we're not going to melt this thing down.
Dakota, get a block.
I am so sick of melting this thing down that I'm not going to do it.
It's ridiculous.
Those tires are just a trip.
Dude, look at that thing.
I don't know, you could look up, there's a couple guys that have done this, but I don't think they splurged and bought these paddles.
Or had 1,200 horse.
Yeah, true.
Think of Randy's truck. That thing was making like 2,200 horsepower, and it went up Sand Mountain in Utah. Full lick, and then with Toyo MTs.
Here's the other thing.
He did a full lick, then hooked up to his toy hauler and drove home.
We're 2-wheel drive. Ideally, 4-wheel drive would be amazing.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Don't know.
I think we need to air down the front a bit. We need a wider tire, more surface area in the front, because that's just a cookie cutter.
Yeah, it's just gonna dip.
If we could get like a 31 that's 12 inches wide, we'd be perfect.
Yeah. And what sucks
Air it
is
down.
trying to find, of course, in a time crunch, trying to find a leveling kit just to bring the front up a little bit is 2-wheel drive is just a nightmare. There's nothing really.
And it's gonna
there's
ride
some space
terrible. You're
Exactly.
at you have no down travel. Take it out there, see how it goes. Worst case scenario, put different tires on the front, I think.
Yeah, well, what sucks is the rear, and this is another thing why we want to go test it, is we can't go down with the rear because, look at that. As far as suspension travel, it's not a big deal, but these tires grow because you only run them at 10 psi, 10 to 13 psi. So with it growing, said the last thing I want to do is chunk out these brand new paddles because they were stupid expensive. So where's that Ryobi cutoff wheel?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
we're bringing it with us.
Well,
And we'll hog this bed out. I do not care. This is good.
Yeah.
Those are from tire chains.
We ain't cutting that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was telling Tucker earlier, I said just cut this at like a 30-degree angle.
Yeah.
Cut this at a 30-degree angle and whoop, you'll be good. It'll never get up that high. Or it does, and then I eat it. So, we got some important things done today. Got a lot of the electrical routing done. Got to snip some zip ties. All 3 of our gauges are hooked up, good to go. We got our 5-point harnesses mounted. Dave killed it on these mounts for the 5 points themselves. He made this crazy W shape over here to try and maintain a single path for the lap belts. Try to keep it's hard to describe, but if we were to mount this vertical, it would be too much of a shear of the belt on the belt mount itself. So just trying to do it with the best intentions as possible, keep it as safe as we can. But yeah, this is coming out pretty good. Super stoked on this. We are a few days away from taking this thing out and testing it in the dunes and see how it goes. But personally, I'm super excited about this. This thing's coming along really good. Got a few things going on with this today. Most importantly, I want to go through this thing. I was told by Dakota that it is time to do a cold retorque on this. So that would include retorquing the cylinder head and then running the valve lash again. Something I really don't like doing is valve lash. It's scary. It's confusing to me. I don't know why. Like, I can do it just fine, but for some reason it's something in the back of my head that just goes crazy, especially with a high performance vehicle like this. Dakota has the touch for it. I do not. He's a madman. That's what we're going to be doing today. I got all the sensors hooked up and ran. We got EGT, trans, and boost. Next, we would like to do oil and coolant. We got a few things that we want to get done. It's Monday today. Come Wednesday, we would like to put this thing on a trailer, take it out to Sand Mountain, and do some testing in this to just kind of get a baseline and feel out the truck, see what we got going on, see if this is even going to work. One of the things that we're talking about is the front tires on this. It might not be ideal to run these factory size tires in the front. We're going to air them down, see what happens, see if we can get a little bit more surface area, because in the sand you want surface area, especially on like a street tire or a all-terrain tire like we have on the front. We got a lot going on. So yeah, we're going to do the cold retorque and adjust the valves again today, finish up all these sensors, route everything, wire loom everything, and get it ready to take out into the sand and see what happens. We're a week away from Sand Mountain Halloween. Really excited. I think that this thing is going to be a hit. I love me a nice snap-on digital torque wrench that's dead. And then watch, I'm going to open it and there's going to be no batteries in it and it got put in the other torque wrench. I wonder who did that. It could physically not be me. That would be weird. I am an idiot. Just want Dakota to call me, man. I miss my friend. Now he's all cool. He had a kid. He's known the kid for like 9 months. And he thinks he's his best friend. I try to explain to him all the time, like, hey, dude, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget your friends. But no, now he wants to hang out with that little guy all day. Dude, the people watching here is insane. I just saw a landscape Chevy Colorado, like a 2010 drive by. And there was a tree leaning on the cab, and the passenger was holding on to the tree trunk, or the tree leg, the tree post. I don't know. He was holding on to it, and they were driving down the road. I saw some chick pull in here one day. She's got a clapped out Chevy Malibu. Like, no cat. Looks like it's been T-boned and rear-ended, and she rear-ended somebody, and it's been flipped over on its roof. And she drove through here one time with no catalytic converter, nothing. And I'm like, what is that sound? And I look out, and she has a completely flat tire. That's just the sidewall is the only thing remaining. I try and mind my own business, but then I see stuff like that and I'm like, wow. So a lot of trucks that I've worked on in the past, you can't do this to, like a hot retorque or a cold retorque, because to access the certain head bolts, you would have to take the valve train apart, which would require you to take a head stud out. So it's just kind of like a redundant cycle. Hope for the best, but this being a fire ring truck and being high performance like this, ARP actually recommends for us to do this while it's cold, because if it's hot, the lube is over effective, causing you to over torque the cylinder head studs. You can actually end up polishing the threads of the head studs themselves and causing damage to them. So the engine builder, Mr. Dakota, Full Hook Performance, he is recommending that we do this cold. And then I'm gonna go through and do the valve overlap again. But we're gonna set this thing at 150 foot-pounds because that's what it's demanding. Nick stopped by. We love Nick. Nick's a good dude. On these trucks, there is a little pin in the back of the timing case. So you have all of your gears are inside of this cover, right, on the front of the engine. On the back side of the camshaft, there's a hole that they drill into the camshaft gear. This little guy right here, if you see at the top, there's a little nub. This rests in the back of the timing case itself, and as you rotate the engine over, you want to find cylinder number 1 top dead center. So top dead center would be the piston is at the very top of its stroke, and the intake and exhaust valves are both not being activated, so you can adjust cylinder number 1 after you make sure that you're at true top dead center by installing this plug. So I already went underneath the truck and rotated the engine over with a bar until I got to the point where I could feel the hole on the back side of the camshaft. So I'm going to be installing this and rotating the engine back and forth until I feel it pop right into its specific socket. It'll be ready to adjust, and we'll go from there. We'll retorque the cylinder head, get this all buttoned up, and then we can put this all back together after I do the valve lash, put the injection lines back on, get this thing fired up, get the air out of the fuel system. Quite the process. These old mechanical trucks, man, there's little things, and I'm not the best at any of this by any means. Little tech tip, little mechanical stuff going on here. I might as well explain it, you know. So as you see here, this is your torque sequence. You will start in the middle of the cylinder head, and then you work away like this, all the way out. So, like I thought, it is 150 foot-pounds is the final torque that we want to achieve. So I'm going to pull on this, and as soon as it moves, we'll have a torque reading. Oh, just moved, which is 150 foot-pounds, so it's still got to do it. Still got to go through the whole thing. Okay, so now that we got the engine pinned and we are at true top bed center on cylinder number 1, and the head is retorqued, you compress the gasket a little bit more, you know, so now all of your adjustment in these adjustable rocker arms is not true anymore. So actually I can tell just by feeling this is probably like 30 to 40% tighter. So if I take this 10/1000ths of an inch feeler gauge and I go to stick it in between the rocker and the valve, see how tight that is? You don't want that. So we're gonna loosen up the jam nut and then adjust this out a little bit. Simple as this. This is a jam nut. Take your socket, break that loose. Now, this is so finicky, and there's a certain way to do it. So what you're looking for here, do you see how this is able to rock? If you could feel it, like I'm feeling it, you would understand what I'm talking about. So that's actually too loose. I adjusted it too much. So the problem is once you make your adjustment on the adjuster screw and then you go to tighten down the jam nut, it actually pulls the adjuster up, which then in return would make it looser. So you kind of have to go past the point of where you exactly want it and then tighten up the rocker jam nut and then double check. And then sometimes you have to go through like 10, 12 times and a billion times, and it never just, So I still got it to rock. I still have a little bit too much play. I'm adjusting it at the same time. So now it won't rock. So right about there. Ooh, that's actually perfect. So you're looking for the magnetic drag and you're looking for no rock. So we're money right there. So your intake is going to be 10/1000ths of an inch. That's what this feeler gauge is set at. Now this feeler gauge is 20/1000ths of an inch. This will be for your exhaust. So I can already tell, obviously, it's way too tight. Touch up this one, and then we're going to go through, and then we're going to pick up the camera. So yeah, we're going to go through every one of these cylinders, double check, get them to where they need to be, put the valve cover back on, change the oil in this thing, and keep going. Got everything retorqued, adjusted the valves, installed our injection lines, left the 3 front loose, so when it's time to start it, we can bleed the air out of the system. We're in the process. Taylor showed up. He wants to do the back window. So he's going through and cleaning this all up, getting it ready to install the plexiglass, and struggle with that for a few hours. That's always fun, learning stuff. Maybe we can buy 2 more pieces today.
All right, so it's been raining out at the dunes, but we're gonna go do some test hits, shakedown run, see, I can already tell you that's gotta be trimmed, but we brought cutoff wheel, all that good stuff. My truck's in the shop, so I stole my wife's truck. They say it tows 10 or 12,000, 12.5 maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. This looks like Ben's truck. He loves it.
Beautiful day out here. Side note, that is a Econoline Ford van with 3rd gen Ram taillights. Getting this thing loaded off. We didn't think about how cold it was going to be, so hopefully it starts. Imagine your kid comes home, he's like, Dad, I'm being bullied. All my friends say that we're white trash. Oh! It made it to the top. For those of you that don't know, Sand Mountain is one of the most nasty hill climbs, one of the steepest and the tallest around. So if you can climb this in a pickup truck going 80 miles an hour, dude, you're doing good.
Coolant temps at 180.
Yeah, this thing's gonna blow the doors off of Can-Am.